You want to know the truth about business school? Well, I graduated from Harvard Business School and I lecture at one of the top business schools in the country. So this is something I know a thing or two about. If you're wondering, is business school worth all the hype? Stay tuned. By the way, I am KJ Miller. I am a founder, a lecturer, and a content creator. I talk about all things business, startup, founder advice, networking, consumer products, entrepreneurship, pretty much all the good stuff. So if you're into that, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into today's topic. I meet business professionals all the time who have the same question. Should I get my MBA? Is it really worth it? And that's exactly what we're going to discuss today. In order to answer that question, we've got to dig into a few things first, starting with what do you actually learn when you go to business school? Now, every school is different, especially Harvard Business School, because we rely solely on the case study method. And also we have very strict requirements for first and second year curriculum, which a lot of schools are not the same. However, I would say at pretty much any business school, and certainly any business school worth its salt, there are a few core areas where you're going to learn the business fundamentals. Those include finance, accounting, marketing, operations, and strategy. I would say these 5 core areas, you are going to learn the business fundamentals in each of these, no matter what business school you go to. How they teach it, how in depth they go, that's really going to vary. And a lot of the in-depth piece is going to vary based on how much you choose to pursue each of those areas after you've learned the fundamentals in whatever the introductory required course is. But again, those 5 areas are going to be covered and you are going to graduate really feeling like you've got a baseline level of mastery in each of these. Now, beyond those subjects, I would say the other piece that a lot of business schools tend to focus on is leadership and management. Obviously, every business school wants to be able to say that they are graduating the business leaders of tomorrow, and they can't really make that claim if you haven't spent some time really studying the effective principles of leadership. So again, what that looks like across schools may vary, but that's also going to be a very big part of your curriculum while you're there. That leads me nicely into the second question, which is, do I need to get an MBA? The answer to this question, I gotta be honest, is almost always no. You do not need an MBA for almost any profession. If you go to LinkedIn right now, you are going to be hard pressed to find a plethora of roles that say they require an MBA. You might find plenty that say MBA preferred, but required, that almost never happens because the reality is in most businesses, in most industries, you can work your way up in that industry to the top position without having ever left the career in order to get your MBA, which is why you're going to be hard pressed to find job descriptions that say an MBA is required. It's not like a law degree. It's not like a medical degree where you have to have that in order to work in your field. An MBA is much more of a nice to have than a must have. So whenever someone asks me, do I need to get an MBA? My answer is usually no. But the question, do I need to get an MBA, is very different from the question, would I benefit from an MBA? Like I said, very few roles require an MBA, but there are a lot of companies where that top tier of management and leadership almost exclusively is filled by people with their MBA. So while it's not a requirement, it is very much a benefit and is going to help you be seen as a peer and get into that upper echelon of whatever that career is that you're looking to do. So again, I don't think the answer is ever, or very rarely is, you need to get an MBA, but there are a lot of circumstances in which having an MBA is very beneficial. Now, at this point, you may be wondering what's so beneficial about getting an MBA? A lot of the areas that you spoke about, operations, marketing strategy, you can learn about all of those things without going to some fancy school. And in fact, I've even heard rumors that business school is a 2-year vacation. If you've heard that rumor, business school is like a 2-year vacation, first of all, I have to tell you, I have to be honest, I heard that too before I enrolled at Harvard Business School. There are definitely going to be people who feel that way. Part of the reason some people say that about business school is exactly because it's not like a law degree or like an MD where it's a degree you have to have in order to get to that next level. So for a lot of people, it feels like, oh, this is sort of a voluntary 2 years off of my job where I get to learn and network and go on vacation and travel, and then I get to go back to work. So for some people, it does function a little bit like a vacation. I call those people privileged. That is an extremely privileged way to approach and think about business school. And oftentimes I have found that the people who think about it that way are people who already have their job coming out of business school lined up. So this could happen if, let's say, you work in consulting or banking or a family business, whatever it might be, and that company is paying for you to attend business school and then to come back and work for them. If that's your situation, first of all, it's free to you, so it's going to feel a little bit like a vacation. Second of all, there's no pressure to recruit and get a job coming out, so it's going to feel a little bit like a vacation. That's an extremely privileged position to be in. That is not the position I was in when I went to business school. So for me, it was not a vacation at all. And I would say the majority of people are not thinking about it that way. You might have 10 to 20% of people, again, who are very privileged. It's paid for. They're thinking about it as 2 years off. The rest of us are thinking about it like a path to the career that we want. That's how most of us are thinking about it. And that's certainly how you should be thinking about it if you want to go to business school. So then what are the benefits of getting your MBA? Well, I would break it down into two large buckets. The first is the actual information in the curriculum. Yes, you can get on Google and study operations and strategy and marketing and finance and leadership and all of these things. You can put together your own curriculum. You can find every case study that Harvard Business School has ever written and download it. You got to pay for it. Download it. And I mean, you can do that on your own. What's helpful about the fact that you have all of the content in the MBA program is that it's structured for you and you have resources to help you through it. You have your professors, you have other students to help you process the information as you're learning it, and also who can help make the information you're learning more real, because typically in a business school, you're surrounded by people who are coming from all different industries. So they can give you insights into the material. Let's say it's a marketing class. You might be sitting next to someone who spent the last 3-4 years working in marketing. So their perspective when they're learning the fundamentals of digital marketing and performance marketing, whatever it might be, is going to be more in depth than maybe even the professor, right? So you have resources to really help you not just digest and learn the information, but to help it become a bit more real to you. And that is helpful. I can tell you, as someone who has taken courses online via Coursera just to further my learning in a few things, it's harder for me, particularly as an extrovert, someone who feeds off of other people's energy, to just sit and absorb and get everything I need to just from reading a computer screen. That's a little bit harder for me. I find it much easier when I'm able to converse back and forth with my classmates, with the professor. That is an easier way for me to learn. So I think that the content is extremely important. And while you can get it elsewhere, I personally find the environment of the classroom to be one of the best ways to absorb a lot of that information. That said, I still don't think that is the primary benefit of business school. The primary benefit of business school, in my opinion, is the network that you build and the access that you have both to your classmates while you're there and faculty while you're there, but also to those resources after you've graduated and become an alum. Ever since graduating business school, anytime I have needed help with whatever part of my career journey I'm on, I have found I've been able to reach back out to my classmates, to my fellow alums, to alums who weren't even a part of my class, right, from older classes or even younger classes. I've been able to reach out, make connections, get advice, get introductions. I've been able to reach back out to faculty for advice and connections and help. And yes, I went to Harvard Business School. Harvard is, a top tier school, but I believe this is true for most business schools, because the fact of the matter is, whether it's got the Harvard brand name or not, business school is not easy to get into. Most business schools have a fairly low admissions rate. So you are being surrounded by people who are incredibly smart, incredibly ambitious, and who worked really hard to get where they are. And that means these are exactly the sort of people who are going to be able to help you out in the future when you are making that next career step, when you do have questions about a particular industry, when you want an introduction to somebody who's going to be able to help you make that next step. You're going to be able to rely on that network. And that's why I personally believe that that's the primary benefit of business school. So that brings us to the final and most important question. Should you go to business school? Now, the typical business school answer to that is it depends. If you've been to business school or you're planning on going, you know that we love to say it depends. But I'm going to tell you when I think business school is the right decision. And keep in mind, this really comes down to whether or not you believe the benefits that business school can offer are going to help get you to where you want to be. The people I think are the best candidates for an MBA break into a few different buckets. One, if you feel your career is stalled. Let's say you work in retail, that's the industry I came from, and you've been able to get to senior director, right? Maybe even VP. But you've been in those roles for a couple of years and you're not seeing a path to the C-suite. And the C-suite is where you want to be. And you've looked both internally at whatever organization you're in now, you've looked externally, you've applied, but you can't seem to break your way out of the level of sort of middle management where you are. That to me means you are probably a good candidate to start exploring an MBA, because I have seen it happen more than once where an MBA becomes the ticket to helping unlock that next part of your career. Very rarely do I see anyone come in at a certain level in their career, call it director, senior director, get an MBA, and go right back to that level. I almost never see that. I almost always see that because of that MBA, you are able to then start having conversations and being considered at that next level up. So if your career is stalled, I do think it's something you should very much consider. Another instance where I think an MBA can be really helpful is if you are looking to jump from one industry into another industry. Sometimes jumping industries can be really difficult. It can be hard for recruiters to understand how your experience in, let's say, finance is going to make you a good candidate for tech. And even though it's absolutely possible to do without an MBA, sometimes an MBA can be a really great jumpstart from getting you from this industry to that industry, because once you're in that program, you're exposed to so much and exposed to so much in terms of the recruiters who are coming to campus in a way that you might not be just using your existing network or just applying to jobs that you're finding on LinkedIn. So that's another instance where I think an MBA can be really helpful. And then a third instance where I think it can be really good to pursue your MBA is if you're experiencing burnout in your current role. A lot of people I have found, if they're experiencing burnout wherever they're coming from, but they aren't quite sure yet what that next step should be, it can be helpful to take a step back, get yourself in the MBA environment where, again, you're exposed to so many different industries, so many different core areas of expertise, so many different people and backgrounds. That can be really great in terms of jump-starting your creativity and your inspiration and motivation to find that next step. Now, I do need to add a very big disclaimer here and say getting an MBA is not cheap. And I would be very remiss not to mention that not all MBAs are created equal. So I think it's very important to be very clear about this cost benefit analysis before getting your MBA. It is not going to be worth it to you unless you feel confident in your prospects leaving business school. And that is going to have a lot to do with how that school is ranked, either the whole school or a specific department within the school. So that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. I want to know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave me a comment below. And if this was helpful and you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time.